All right, final blessings. We are back with another video. Do a couple quick announcements before I begin. Again, if you're interested in a 2024 yearly forecast reading, I'm offering those now until about the first week in February. If you're interested in any other reading that I offer, a Occult demonic reading, Santa Muerte reading, an Egyptian oracle reading, a deity reading, shadow work readings, which, as I've said many times before, always a great reading to do to see what's going on. Always a great reading to point you in the right direction as far as what you need to be doing, uncovering the shadow and the hidden self and things of that nature. Or if you're interested in a spiritual consultation, any of the aforementioned, shoot me an email, khnum19@gmail.com. Again, that's khnum19@gmail.com. And I will send you information over on how to book a spiritual reading or a consultation. If you want to sign up for classes, the way to sign up for classes is to go to the official Primordial Chaos Patreon page, patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. That's patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. Tier 3 is the tier you want to join. That gives you access to all of the classes in the archive. Again, you don't just get access to the classes, from the day forward that you join. You get access to over 3 years plus content in the archive. Plus, it gives you access to the 3 private classes that I do every month on Patreon for Patreon members only. And the group ritual. Everything is archived on the Patreon page in the collection section. It's categorized in numerical order. And these ongoing classes, these series of ongoing classes are continual. I'm constantly adding new content. I'm covering various topics, such as Ancient Egyptian Vampiric class, Sith Dark Side Alchemy and Philosophy class, Shadow Work class, Clepothic Sorcery, Luciferian Magic and Self-Mastery class, Esoterical Occult Bible Study class, Kundalini Meditation Awakening class, and, the list goes on and on. I cover a wide range of topics. So if you want to get in on the classes, that's the way to do it, patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. I would encourage those that were not able to get there the other night, the end of the year, 2023 end of the year, 2024 prophecy class. All I can tell you is if you weren't there, and especially if you're on Patreon, you have access to it, you need to go watch that. Lot of things transpired in that class. I'm possibly thinking about selling it. I don't know, because there are certain things in there. I'm not sure if it'd be wise that that I do that and make it like a public thing, but I'm wrestling with it. But those that are on Patreon, definitely, if you haven't watched it yet, I encourage you to go watch it. Also, I will, for everybody on Patreon, in the next day or two, just a lot going on, family stuff, personal stuff, holiday stuff. I'm going to get the new content up for the month of January. We will be kicking off the year with a Draconian Black Mass of Lucifer and Charging Right. That'll kick our year off in January, and I'll get the classes up as far as what we'll be doing in January. So look for that in the next day or two. Don't forget to check out the Primordial Chaos podcast on Spotify, all major podcast platforms. Check us out on Instagram, Primordial Chaos 9, one word. Facebook, Primordial Chaos 2 words. I upload all this new content on Facebook. Next year, October 2024, 7th annual Journey to the Black Addict Conference. More as we get into that next year. All the aforementioned, the link to the podcast, my contact email, the link to the Patreon page to sign up for classes, all that is in the description box of the video that you're watching right now. All right, this is going to be a real quick video, not too long, maybe 15-20 minutes max total. I want to talk about Solomon's keys, because I get emails about this all the time. Do you work with the keys of the Solomon? Is the keys of Solomon an occult left-hand path practice? This, that, or the other. All right, so let me say this. My answer to that is yes, it can be, and no, sometimes it's not. And why am I saying that? There's a lot of different perspectives on how the keys of of Solomon is worked with. So I can only tell you the perspective that I have connected with it, how I work with it from an occult left-hand path perspective, and how I utilize it or have utilized it in the past, right? Now, first and foremost, there's a lot of bullshit out there in the Keys of Solomon. It gets very religious. And one thing with the Keys of Solomon or the Goetias and things of that nature, you have to be careful, because I've said this several times over the years. A lot of the books, like on the Goetia, but also with the Keys of Solomon, not a lot of them, when they first came on the scene, were written by occult practitioners. I'll just say occult, not so much left-hand path. I mean, there's a connection there, but there is varying degrees. When you're saying occult and left-hand path, you got to understand there's varying degrees of that, because there's a lot of things classified occult, in my opinion, that's not quote-unquote really occult. That's just my opinion. But a lot of those books were written by Christians, right? As I said, until the last maybe 10, 15 years, you saw more occultists and left-hand path practitioners putting out books on the subject. So I would say with the Keys of Solomon, make sure also you've done your research on the author who's written the book, and it's not just written by a Christian who was interested in the Keys of Solomon, because there's a connection with Solomon in the Bible. That's my point. So do your research on the author that wrote the book. Don't just get caught up so much in a title, and that one, personally, in my opinion, that will point you in the right direction that you need to be going. Now, when you look at a deeper understanding of the Keys of Solomon, and it's funny because religious folks always talk about stuff on the occult or the left-hand path, how it's demonic and it's devil worship, it's satanic, their definitions of those terms, not our definitions, because they don't even understand the definition of those terms, because they've spooked that out and sensationalized that, right? When you look at Solomon, who is a key character or figure or prophet, one of the major prophets in the Bible, right? So let's look at this real quick. And when you really look at some of the attributes and the things that Solomon did, it goes against many different Christian, Judaic, and Islamic principles. And the three monotheistic religions all acknowledge Solomon in the line of the prophets. That can't be denied. Okay, let's look at this first. Solomon had a connection with the Queen of Sheba, right? Solomon had a connection. Okay. Solomon had a connection with the Jinn, which I'm going to explain shortly. And we also know Solomon had a harem of women worldwide, as I like to say. He was an international pimp, right? And Christians always deny this, right? The concept of a monogamous relationship, right, or monogamy, right, is nowhere found in the Bible, so-called only attributed to who they call the prophet Jesus, right? Now, there's other theories on that Jesus was married to Mary Magdalene. He had a wife. He gave birth to children. I'm not going to get into that now. That's a video for another place and another time, so I'm not even going to touch that right now. But this whole thing of monogamy is nowhere found in the Bible. Most of the prophets were pimps. Okay, and I'm just using that as a humorous term, that they had multiple wives. They practiced polygyny, right? It's all over the Bible. It's undeniable. So when you look at what they're calling modern day Christianity, this, that, and the other, there's a lot of concepts that just don't fucking line up. That just, right, don't make any damn sense on any level. Okay, when you look at the building of Solomon's temple, which is the root of so-called the Keys of Solomon, right? The Jinn helped Solomon build Solomon's temple. Solomon was able to conjure up and summon the Jinn, and this is where he got his power. He was a sorcerer. He was a magician. Why is this overlooked? Now, this quote-unquote so-called is a man of God, right? This so-called is a man of God who is held in very high esteem, but yet this man was practicing sorcery and magic and summonance in the gym. This is how the temple was built. Now, Solomon used the same practices we as magicians and sorcerers use, but yet somebody will look at us and who or anybody who's on this path and practices sorcery, magic, or witchcraft, that all of a sudden we will get judged and demonized and used as an example to show that it's against their mainstream religion, this, that, or the other, right? Solomon, don't get it twisted. Solomon was a magician and a sorcerer, okay? The keys and the seals of Solomon, right? When you look at the seals and the keys and the seals of Solomon, right? It's no different than when we use sigils, right? It's no different when we use seals and symbols to unlock magical power and spiritual energy to summon spiritual forces outside of three-dimensional existence, person, place, or thing, because that's what Solomon did. Remember, the one key thing that I've said a million times before, okay? There's an esoterical meaning and a metaphorical meaning in the story of Solomon when he was given the opportunity, when told he could have whatever he wanted. Okay? And I always stress this point. This is probably the most powerful point of the story of Solomon. I'm saying story. I'm stressing story. He was given the opportunity to have whatever he desired, whatever he wanted, right? Now, he didn't ask for riches, wealth, money, gold, anything materialistic. He asked for the wisdom. Keep this in mind. This applies to you. He asked for the knowledge and the wisdom, right? And I keep telling you guys that. That's the first key, or the first thing one should seek and desire over anything else. He wanted the knowledge and the wisdom. That's essentially what you do when you come on this path. A sincere seeker, their main goal, first and foremost, is to seek knowledge of self and gain that wisdom. So he wanted the knowledge and the wisdom, and everything else, because he requested that first, everything else, all of those materialistic things were automatically added unto him. He didn't even have to strive for them. Okay? But seeking true knowledge and wisdom is the science of darkness and what they call light. That's what made the story of Solomon and the character of Solomon different from most other stories and most other characters. So to have true knowledge is to have a whole understanding of what one calls light and darkness. So though Simon had what we would term on the surface spiritual knowledge, but he understood the power of the darkness, the power of, for an example, who the Jinn were. Now, when you look at the Jinn, right, and you can trace the Jinn back, which is an Arabic term, the Quran mentions the Jinns. The Quran connects the Jinns to Iblis, which is another form of the mask of the adversary. Iblis, Shaitan, right? So now technically we see this man of God was working with the forces of Satan and the devil, or who the Christians are calling Satan or the devil. Now keep in mind, this is an esteemed major, not one of the minor prophets of the Bible, like Micah or Haggai or any of the, no, we're talking about one of the major prophets of the Bible was working with the forces and the power of Satan, aka the devil, Lucifer, all these terms that Christians use, but nobody points that out. But that's okay. That's acceptable in that line. But as soon as you say you work with Luciferian energy, Iblis, or Shaitan, all of a sudden you're ostracized for it. What I'm trying to get you guys to see, you're going to understand, this God and devil force, there's no difference between it. This is what I'm trying to fucking been telling people for years. What you're calling God and the devil is the same fucking thing. It's just varying vibrational degrees of energy of the same thing, right? Humans and mortals come along and divide and separate it, and this is what creates the confusion, and this is what creates dogmas and doctrines. So I'm saying from an occultist left-hand path as a practitioner, I don't have anything wrong with that concept of Solomon and what he did. Because essentially what Solomon did is what we are supposed to be doing, having a full understanding of light and darkness. Because a true black adept magician or sorcerer embodies light and darkness. Okay, and we've mastered the concept of what light and darkness is. That's what made Solomon different and unique. But we can't deny the fact that Solomon worked with dark energy. He worked with the Jinn. The Jinn will respond. He summons the Jinn for deviation. He summons the Jinn in the assistance of building Solomon's temple, which now takes you into the mysteries of Freemasonry, because Freemasonry is enshrouded around the mysteries of Solomon's temple. And it's not just the literal temple, because as I said before, the actual temple you're working on is you when you enter the lodge, whether you're a Mason or whether you're an Eastern Star. All of this is connected. And look, don't bullshit yourself. A lot of these so-called hypocritical Christians that are judgmental of the occult and Masonry or esoterical orders, most of their Christian ministers and pastors are Freemasons. Don't let them bullshit you. They're just on the down low about it because they ain't getting no knowledge in the church. Now, the question is that anybody should ask any Christian minister or pastor that you know is a Freemason, ask them why. Aren't you a man of God? Is not the church giving you enough of knowledge? Is not the Bible giving you enough of knowledge? And the question you should ask that individual, why is it you want to become a Mason, number one? And number two, is that in alignment with Christianity, your beliefs, and the Bible and the so-called laws of Christianity? Ask them that shit. Put them on the spot. And in reality, they would have to say no. Then the question is, why are you a Freemason? Or why are you a Mason? Okay? You want to know why? Because they know they ain't getting damn shit. They're getting all that surface nonsense and religious. They know there's more knowledge beyond that. Why don't they just come out and say it? But nobody puts them on the spot. And there are many Christian ministers and pastors that are known publicly for being Masons by their congregation. And nobody says anything. I thought Masonry was devil worship. I thought Masonry was the work of Satan. So why would any congregation allow their pastor, priest, or minister, or whatever the fuck they calling themselves, be Freemasons? I'm saying I ain't got a problem with it. I'm not saying it from my point. I have no problem with it at all. I'm saying from that standpoint, when you look at Solomon, when you look at Freemasonry, the Jinn, the keys of Solomon, the seals of Solomon, and all this is esoterical occult spirituality that goes deeper than the Bible and religion. Okay? That's my whole point. That's what I'm trying to bring out here. Okay? So I work with Solomon connected to the power of the Jinn and Iblis and Shaitan. Right? You're going to find this battle between what a lot of people have been labeling over the years, good and evil and light and darkness. You've been on the wrong side for years, people. You've been on the wrong side, and there's been many things they've been trying to show you. The Sith, right? The Star Wars trilogy, movies are trying to show you this. What you think the dark side is not really the dark side. Not the dark side in the sense of what they describe the dark side. Okay? You've been on the wrong team for years. Okay? The war that's being waged right now, spiritually, worldwide, spiritually, yet it's also being waged objectively in the physical realm, is for the control and the power of your mind. Again, I can't stress enough, if they can get you looking in the other direction, okay? If they can get you confused and fooled to think you've been on the right team, because everybody will say, oh, when you work with this type of spirituality, you're deceived, this, that, and the other, and to work with that type of stuff is evil and it's wrong, this, that, and the other. I'm asking you to take a hard look. Do you really understand? Do you really have a clear breakdown, especially in regards to when we're talking about Solomon, the keys of Solomon, the seals of Solomon, the Jinn, and the occult, and how all of this is connected to Freemasonry and spirituality, but yet Solomon still holds a place in Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and monotheistic religion as one of the most upheld, major esteemed prophets of the Bible. Like I said, Jesus was a sorcerer and a magician. So was Solomon. Solomon was an occultist. Ain't no getting around it. When you're working with the seals and the keys of Solomon, it's rooted in the Jinn. The Jinn are esoterical spiritual beings that go back before time immemorial. There's different classifications of jinns. I've done videos and classes. I'm not going to get into all that here. But you're working with spiritual beings that vibrate outside of a three-dimensional density or existence. And these were what religious folks would call evil. The Quran calls Jinn, the father of the jinn, and the jinn evil beings, beings of fire. Right? They left the fire part in there. It's good that they did that. Okay? But why is it Solomon gets a pass from religious eyes? Why does he get a pass? But if somebody like me or you says, I work with the jinn, I work with the seals of Solomon the way Solomon did, wow, oh, that's evil. Oh, you're that. Come on, people. We got to wake the fuck up. But I can tell you this, and I'm going to leave you with this, only because I got some things to do. I want this video to be long. I'll probably do a continuation of this because there's more I want to talk about in regards to this. Maybe I'll do Solomon and Freemasonry. I've been saying I want to do a video on that for a while, and I keep forgetting. But I'm going to leave you with this, okay? As we approach 2024, we talked about the dates, we talked about the number 33 in the end of the year prophecy class, because 12/31/23 adds up to 33. It lines up 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, which is the 33. It adds up to 12, 1, 2, and 3, 3. You get more. I went into that heavy in the end of the year prophecy class. Gig is up, folks. 2024 is going to be a serious year of renewal. You thought last year and the prior years, you about to see the uncovering of some shit in 2024 you haven't seen ever. People waking the fuck up. A lot of shit is going to be exposed, and I'll get into that further as we get into the new year. We need to wake up and start seeing things for what they are, not for what they're trying to tell us and what they've been trying to program us with for years. So Solomon was a magician and a sorcerer. Solomon worked with the jinn. From the power of the jinn is how he built the Solomon's temple, by the way, which is one of the most sacred sites in Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. So the very site that they fighting over for years, these so-called people claiming to be Jews, Christians, and Muslims, was built by the jinns. Wow. Somebody knows something we don't, or pretending they don't. You do the math. Anyway, more on this. I'm going to do a follow-up on this. You need to reach me. Emails in the description box of the video to book a reading or a consultation. If you do book a yearly forecast, please put that in the subject title so I see it. If you want to sign up for classes, the link is there. Everything is in the description box of the video. The link to the podcast for classes, readings, contact email is there. It's time to wake up, people. Infernal blessings.